This video is for ARMY, specifically, directly, unambiguously for you. Not for people who need convincing that BTS matters, not for people who want a takedown or a controversy dissection, not for those who claim ownership over BTS in any way. This video is for those of us who have been living intensely together with these 7 men and feel that energetic something that goes beyond music, beyond fandom, beyond what the industry world parasocial could ever hold. Because what I want to talk about today is not a scandal, it's not a crisis, it's not even really news because it happened a few days ago anyway. What happens when a human being keeps choosing to be himself and what that looks like from the outside, and why it matters so much more than we sometimes allow ourselves to say it out loud. My name is Adriana. I'm a pragmatic idealist and a translator, mostly between cultures, concepts, and worlds these days, rather than actual languages. More like a deep life coach. And I have been mesmerized by BTS for a couple of years now, both observing them as one of the most successful social experiments I have ever seen, but mostly as someone who is genuinely moved and inspired by what they represent and stand for. Because from where I stand, and this is my perspective, BTS are one of the most compelling spiritual demonstrations of our time. Not because they are perfect, not because they are saints, they are idols to a certain extent, okay, but it's because they are whole, because they have been doing the relentless, costly, beautiful work of becoming whole in public, in a system that profits from keeping people fragmented, under a level of scrutiny that would break most of us before breakfast. And that to me is what authentic spirituality looks like in motion. Not robes and incenses, not performance of virtue, but a person, well, 7 people, refusing to disappear into the role that was prepared for them and choosing instead, again and again, at great personal cost, to show up as themselves. That is what I want to talk about in this video. And Jungkook is the perfect place to begin. On his last Weverse live from a few days ago, Jungkook showed up a bit drunk, relaxed and honest, together with his older brother and a friend who were karaokeing. And he was lollipopping cutely and while teasing, until things suddenly got serious at some point, and he stumbled a bit trying to find the right words to convey his feelings. Do you actually realize the level of awareness he has, even while drunk? He talked about smoking and how he used to smoke a lot, but then he worked hard to quit, and how he quit specifically because he wanted to protect his voice. He expressed his consideration for the way he talked and what he felt to talk about, mentioning the company while making sure he actually appreciated them and the work they do for and with him and BTS. Highly aware that his words will be twisted after that live because, as he said, there are ARMY watching his live, but also there are people who want to destroy him or even kill him. He talked about wanting to speak comfortably, and then he said, "I will live my life the way I want from now on. Please support me." His live was deleted. He said he wanted to delete it, and it was deleted. I am not sure, but I believe on Weverse it's a first. Nevertheless, he deleted his Instagram account some years ago, despite having about 50 million followers. So there you have Jungkook being consistent with himself. He can delete his own lives, accounts or posts if he wants to. And it's not the first time that he or other BTS members speaks directly on Weverse live to the staff of Weverse through their live, asking them to do some things, such as deleting this live in this case. While certain parts of the internet immediately decided that this was evidence of control, suppression, crisis, I sat with what I had seen and thought, that was Jungkook. A little more transparent than usual, perhaps, a little more unfiltered, but consistent, utterly, recognizably consistent with who he's always been. He was not falling apart, he was not crying for help, though he was vulnerable and held back on his crying. In fact, for me, that was one of the most extraordinary exemplifications of live emotional alchemy I have ever witnessed, because he started singing. Instead of crying, he redirected the wave of emotion that he felt. While drunk, he transformed an emotionally consuming moment into fuel through singing, turning it into a balm-like transmission for those of us who could actually receive just that. For me, that was the highlight of his life, because he showed me directly that through enough practice you can reach that level of mastery over your own emotions, thoughts and actions, so that you process them in real time, you alchemize them, you radiate light out of pure love for life and for the people who love you. He even said, tomorrow the members will probably call me, the company will say something, I know how this works, I'm not naive, this is just who I am. And if I did something wrong, I want to own it. That last part, if I did something wrong, I want to own it, that's not the behavior of someone disconnected from responsibility. That is the behavior of a person who holds himself accountable and also refuses to preemptively shame himself for simply existing, for being a human. This distinction matters because the world keeps confusing those two things. This is not new. Jungkook has been telling us who he is for years. He's been showing it over and over again. Back in 2023, while promoting his just released Seven, his first solo single, a love song with an explicit version that some fans immediately called the dirty version and called him out for it. And he was in this live on Weverse and someone asked him specifically on that live, why did you make a dirty version? And he became serious. He was also a little bit drunk in that live. He got serious suddenly for a bit. And then he said, dirty version? Why do you call it dirty version? Explain yourself. It's just the explicit version. Why is that dirty? It's about being frank.
당신을 엿먹이는 것과 당신을 사랑하는 것은 같은 것이 아닙니다. 서양 아티스트로서 더티 버전을 만든 이유는 무엇입니까? 그게 왜 더티 버전이야? 그게 왜 더티 버전인데? 이유를 설명을 해봐. 그게 왜 더티라고 생각해? 이유를 설명을 해봐. explicit 버전인데 그냥 솔직한 거잖아. 사람마다 또 느끼는 게 다른가? 그치, 다르겠지? 뭐 그렇게 느껴졌다면은 뭐 어쩔 수 없지만.
And he didn't stop there. He kept going into something deeper, something that was already clearly brewing long before that question landed. I may be the youngest in our team. If I just follow that image because people like it, what more of myself can I change? This is my life. Shouldn't I be the one to change it?
편하고자 하는 거랑 감수하고 도전하는 거랑 솔직히 봐봐 내가 만약에 익스플리시 버전을 냈어서 나는 이미지가 막내기도 하고 물론 나이가 이제 요즘 이제 아이돌 친구들 사이에서는 막내가 아니긴 하지만 당연히 아니겠지. 근데 이제 어쨌든 그 이미지란 게 있잖아. 그런 걸 너무 좋아해줘. 사람들이 만약에 좋아한다고 해. 그래서 나는 그냥 그걸만 따라가. 그럼 내가 바꿀 수 있는 게 뭔데? 나 스스로. 내 인생인데.
And then, in his November 2023 interview with Zane Lowe for Apple Music, when Zayn asked him about the challenge of separating your stage self persona from who you really are, Jungkook answered in a way that awakens something in me still. I don't separate them. There is only one me. There is no stage me, it's just me. I used to try to separate them back in my rebellious phase, my adolescence. But now I just accept it all. I acknowledge what needs to be acknowledged. That is living as myself. And I think that's the best way.
아니요, 전혀 신경 안 써요. 전혀 신경 안 쓰고 저는 분리를 시키지 않아요. 그냥 저는 올곧이 그냥 저 하나밖에 없고 그냥 지금의 저 그 무대 위에 나는 없어요. 그냥 나인 거예요. 그래서 그거를 막 예전에는 막 분리를 시켜 막 반하고 막 사춘기 그때는 좀 분리를 시켜 놓으려고 했었는데 지금은 그냥 다 받아들이는 것 같아요. 인정할 거 인정하고 그게 나로 사는 거라서 그게 가장 좋은 방법이지 않을까 싶어요, 전.
There it is. Not in a 3 a.m. live when his defenses were down because he was drunk a little bit and tired, but in a sober, formal interview to an international audience. One me, he said. No separation. Just living as myself. Jungkook's duality that the ARMY knows intimately. He's the one who can be all bunny eyes and shy laughter in one moment and then turn around and deliver something that stops the room. He can be cute and devastatingly sexy in the same breath, surprisingly wild sometimes, yes, because his energy levels are extraordinary. Yet he is the most comforting when he's relaxed and genuinely, unexpectedly funny. This duality, it's actually not a contradiction. It's the fullness of a person who has refused to be edited down to one manageable thing. And he has been refusing that for a long time. When he said in 2023 that an explicit love song is not the same as being dirty, he was saying something that went far beyond the song. He was saying, I'm a grown man who loves with his whole body and his whole heart. And I'm not going to pretend that it is shameful so that you, the one who projects dirt on my love song, feel more accepting of it. When he said in his last live that he will live his life the way he wants to, he was not escalating, he was continuing. The same man is just a little older and a little bit more certain of himself, but I want to zoom out now, because this is not only about Jungkook. What we are witnessing right now, this moment in BTS's story, is something I think we haven't fully let ourselves see yet. After years of extraordinary achievement, after a pandemic that forced them to reckon with what they were doing and why, after a hiatus that felt to many of us like exile, after military service that took them out of the spotlight and gave them back something that the spotlight tends to steal, they came back. And they came back different. not worse, not diminished, just more themselves. RM, in December 2025, in a life that felt a little heavy, he was honest as well. He said, "We will definitely be back, and it may not be in the form you are looking for, but there is nothing we can do about it." In fact, what I liked best in that life is that he even addressed his own leadership to them, expressing how each of them is now a fully grown man, and he's not the kind of like fatherly figure who needs to take care of them anymore. But they are now truly united as brothers, and their comeback will definitely be different than what they have been showing so far to us.
그리고 이제 방탄소년단 하면서 한 5년, 17년, 18년까지는 이제 제가 막 이렇게 막 했던 것 같은데 그 후에는 사실 멤버들도 지금 한 명의 다 인격체고 각자의 바운더리가 있고 각자의 생활 성향, 스타일이 다 있기 때문에 제가 막 뭐 멤버들을 해서 뭐 이렇게 약간 막 제가 멤버들을 뭐 제가 뭐 회사한테 가서 뭘 얘기를 해야 된다 혹은 제가 뭘 멤버들을 어떻게 해야 된다라는 것은 사실 지금은 더 이상 적용이 되지는 않는 것 같아요.
His life was not a promise to deliver what fans are expecting, not a reassurance dressed as performance, but it's an honest man telling you we are growing, we are grown men, and we cannot control the shape of the growth. He actually even said, we need to live, addressing some people who were complaining that they didn't give us enough materials during their hiatus. And he said, well, we also need to live and have a life so that we can actually produce the material based on our life experience.
저희가 저희 인생을 살아야 여러분 저희가 저희 인생을 살아야 저희가 노래도 할 수 있고 노래도 만들 수 있어요. 왜냐면 맨날 컨텐츠 해서 카메라 앞에 서는 일만 하고 뒤에서 아무것도 안 하면 아무 인생도 살지 않으면 그 사람이 부르는 노래에 무슨 향기가 있겠으며 그 사람이 하는 말에 무슨 놀아야 놀고 인생을 살고 한 사람이 인간이 돼야 그래야 좋은 컨텐츠 좋은 컨텐츠 너무 어폐가 있다. 그래야 저는 그래야 된다고 생각해요. 그래야 나눌 수 있어요. 그래야 한 사람의 개인성이 보편적으로 닿을 수 있어요. 저희가 믿는 건 그거거든요.
I love this. So basically, he was just asking us to wait and trust them and to focus on the relationship with them. At the structural level, at the company that built them and still holds the shape of the operation, there is something I find genuinely remarkable. Hybe, imperfect institution that it is, like any other institution, has not tried to cancel Jungkook's drunken honesty in his last life. It has not issued statements of correction or apologies. It has, in its own way, acknowledged what Bang Ji-hyuk expressed in the BTS Monuments Beyond the Star documentary series, when he said that they did everything and at this point he has no expectations of them anymore. They are free to live their lives the way they want.
그들에게 형태적으로나 양적으로나 원하는 바가 없다. 자연스럽게 아티스트로서의 삶을 살면 되는 거고 유일하게 바라는 건 시간이 아무리 흘러도 저도 멤버들도 음악을 사랑하고 가끔씩 만나서 음악 얘기하면서 즐길 수 있고 그들이 선택을 하면서 나오는 자연스러운 결과들이 중요한 것 같아요. 그것들이 개인을 행복하게 하고 그것이 옳은 결정이었음에 대해서 만족할 수 있는 게 중요해요.
And the logistics are real. When you are that visible, that globally connected to sponsorships and schedules, millions of people's expectations, there are things that must be managed carefully. And Jungkook knows this. He said it himself in a live. The company is catching the parts that he misses. He's grateful for that because they are actually making sure that everything is running smoothly. And this is not oppression or control. This is just the reality of the scale they're at. But within that structure, something extraordinary is being allowed to breathe. These men are being allowed to be people, not puppets. And that's a first in the industry. So here is my perspective. I'm a spiritual seeker, and I've been spending decades exploring, studying, experiencing what it looks like when a spirit, a soul, is living their life deeply, fully, in this 3D, completely responsible for all of it. And what is the cost when we don't do that? BTS inspires me in this direction, genuinely, deeply, in a way that very few other people in this world do, because they are, to me, living demonstrations of something I aim to be, a wholesome person living life fully, happily, and fulfilling my destiny freely. Authenticity is not a personality type. It is not something you either have or you don't. It is a practice, a daily, costly, sometimes very public practice of choosing what is true over what is convenient. And what I see in all 7 of them, but in the last life, particularly in Jungkook, is people who have been doing that work. Not perfectly, not without stumbling, but consistently and successfully. Jungkook quit smoking. The main message of this life was that he quit smoking to protect his voice, because singing is his soul's work and he knows it. Back in 2023, he chose to launch his solo career with an explicit song, because love is explicit and he refuses to sanitize it. He went live at 3 a.m. and told millions of people that what he actually feels, and we know that's what he's usually doing. And then he removed this live when the full weight of what it means to be that visible landed on him again. And then he posted selfie, a super cute selfie, saying that the album is coming and asking us to wait a little bit more, that he will do his best when the comeback is just around the corner, and that he loves us. Besides, he obviously didn't sleep that night because he spent time further reading fans' messages and replying to almost 30 fans after the live ended. So he was clearly so invested in his relationship with us. And he is. He truly loves us. And it is a love, like he often said, again, bigger than ours is for him, simply because his perspective from that side is wider. And he's trained to hold it. Every one of these moves shows a person navigating the tension between full self-expression and full responsibility, not choosing one over the other, not rebelling, but really considering all angles. And he's living in the middle of that tension, finding the line to walk by. This, for me, is spiritual practice in public spotlight. And very few people who live public lives actually do it. Actually, most people don't even consider something like this. Now let me add another layer, and that is astrology. I use it to get to know myself and to know other people and to help myself and others navigate through this life. So I cannot ignore it. But I'll keep it brief. Jungkook has Saturn in Aries in his natal chart. Saturn is the planet of structure and earned authority, the great teacher who asks whether you have built your life on truth or on performance. Aries is the first sign, the raw self, the courage to simply exist as what you are before the world edits you. And Saturn in Aries says your identity must be forged from the inside, through the specific courage of being yourself, when every structure around you asks you to be something more manageable. Saturn touched Aries in May 2025 for the first time since 1996, which means that right now Jungkook is having a Saturn return. He's slowly getting to feel the impact of this Saturn return. So this 3 a.m. live that was deleted, the smoking confession, the I will live my life the way I want to, this is Saturn in Aries, doing exactly what it does, what it's here to do. Dismantling performance in favor of identity, delivering a person back to themselves. And we are watching it happen in real time in front of millions, as Jungkook will spend his Saturn return, so pretty much next 2 years, on screen and among fans while touring. Do you remember how your Saturn return was when you were turning 28 until you got into your 30s? Most people, I'm sure most of you are likely to remember it was a life-changing period. If you haven't been through that yet, watch and learn. Watch Jungkook, how he navigates it, and learn, because you will need full presence and honesty with yourself when your Saturn return is coming. And here's the thing I want to say the most. The reason BTS resonates across every border, every language, every demographic, in a way that genuinely has no historical equivalent at this scale, is not only the music, though the music is extraordinary. It's not only the performances, though they are transcendent. It is because when you watch these 7 people, really watch them over years, through the hard patches and the luminous ones, you see people who did the work of becoming themselves. And this is the simple, most inspiring thing one human being can model for another. We are living in a world that is hungry for this. A world where the old systems, the institutions that told us who to be, the inherited roles, the performance of stability are all visibly cracking. And in that cracking, so many people feel the pull to either grip tighter to the old form or to disappear into formlessness. And then there are these 7 men who show there is another way. You can let the structure crack. You can let the old image dissolve. And you can come back more yourself, more whole, more capable of real love and real work and real joy than you were before. That is what BTS post-military means to me, not a comeback, a return. The return of people who went inward and came back knowing more about who they are. And that is the spiritual invitation they extended to us, whether or not any of them would frame it that way. So I felt to make this video simply to praise BTS. And since this year I will be attending 4 of their concerts, I will most likely post more of my insights and perspectives on how I see them. Even though this channel is not a BTS reacting channel or a fan account. They're just part of everything else that I'm inspired by spiritually. I'm highly inspired by these 7 people who chose each other and keep choosing each other and keep choosing themselves, even when it is hard, especially when it is hard. And to ARMY, to you watching this, I want to say the reason this matters to you is not trivial. It is not something to explain away or minimize. You are drawn to wholeness. You recognize it, and that recognition is itself a spiritual capacity. What they demonstrate, you are also being called to do. Not on a stadium stage, not to the extent they do it, but in your own life, adjusted, fitting you, in your own body, in the places where you have been managing your fire, your inner fire, your divine spirit, instead of leaving it. Jungkook's Saturn return is asking him to be himself, fully and without apology. The same Saturn in Aries is transiting collectively until 2029, and it is asking all of us, what would you say if you let yourself say it? What would you do if you let yourself do it? How would you live if you stopped waiting for permission? If anything in this video, name something you've been carrying. I read all the comments. Let's talk about it.